All right, hello everyone. My name is Mildred, and this is lesson 3 of week 18. In this lesson, we are going to look at how to complete our login route and then see the error that we encountered in yesterday's lesson. So yesterday we encountered an error. It wasn't a deliberate error, but it is a good one that will lead us to debugging and testing, which is supposed to be the next topic after this. So now let us retrace our steps, look at the error we had yesterday, and then try to see what the problem is. So on the app file or on the utils file, we had this not equal to 0. This is not even correct because it always has to be greater than 0. So because when we successfully log in, it will definitely return a row, so it will never come back empty. So it's supposed to be greater than 0. But when we come to our page here and we try to log in with the account we created, we're going to have registration successful, or we just registered a new account. I'm wondering why we had to register a new account. Let's delete this and start from the beginning so that we can register an account, create a new user, and create an account, activate the account, and then try to log into that account. So we'll delete that one and we'll try to create. So what happened here is we always get this message when the account is already present. It does not create a new one and does not send a new email. It's just alerting the user. Maybe we'll change the message to be you already have an account, activate your account, or something like that here. So what we want to do here is to create a new user since we deleted the other user. So in production environment, you don't delete things. You try to figure out the error, and that is why there's always testing. But these are just like end user tests. These are not unit tests or the other type of test. So we look at registering a user. It says registration successful. Check your email. I should check my email and see a new email come in, and I want to activate this account. I'll set the password. Before I click submit, I want to see if it's created. It did create, and so we want to activate and we want to set a password, and so I'll click submit and it is successful. So what I'll do now is log in. I'll log in with the same email and the correct password, and it says login failed. I'll log in with a wrong password and it says login failed. So anything we do, we get a login failed. When we just try to use common sense to just think about it on the interface, it means that something is wrong with either the email or the password we are entering, and that's why it is failing. On anything you do, it fails. It means it's not reading it correctly. That's what we can think of. But then we need to go into the back end to see. So I'll log in correctly so that we can trace our step. And then we have login failed. So we want to come to the terminal here and see what you have here. Here we can see the code that ran. It inserted the email, that's the hash, and the hash password. Let's take the last 5 digits of this hash password, 7D277D. And let's go to the database and make sure it is the same. The hash password here is it's not the same at the end, but let's look at the last 4 of the email, 2D396, and let's come back there to see the email hash is 2D396. So the email is passing correctly, but the password is not. So now we know that the problem is with the password. So why is it with the password? We created a password when we sent the verification link, and when the link is clicked, then the password is set and then it is sent. We have I think it's the update password. I think it should now be the update password function and the confirm route that handled that. So the error will be between this and this. So you see how we're now retracing our step, what is going on. I can already see the error. Now we hash the password here. I'll delete that. Before we sent it, we hash the password here. And after hashing the password, we send the hash to this. And so it's still hashed again a second time, which makes us log in incorrectly. So by the time we're setting our password, it encrypts the password and encrypts the encrypted. So when we are logging in, we only decrypt once. If we decrypt the decrypted, we'll get what we're looking for. So the problem is that we're hashing twice when we are trying to compare, but we hash once when we were sending it into it. So it makes that password incorrect when it's trying to compare. So does everybody understand? Okay.
Yes.
So I deleted that, and then we'll try again to see that this is actually the error. So we should not see this as the this is what we should see as the hash when we hash once. This is what we should see, but this is not what is going to be stored in the database, because this is what is hashed the second time. So I said if we by any magic know this number to use this as our password, we're not going to successfully log in. Let me copy this and let's try to use this as our password, and we might end up logging in successfully because this is the first hash which is supposed to be that. Let's just try it for the sake of fun, and then we'll retrace our step. Oh no, I already changed the hash. I removed it. I'll put it back there. Let's put it back here, and let us just catch some fun. So we'll log in with the correct email. So these are the kind of errors that might occur, and we'll log in successful because we use the hash, and we're supposed to hash the hash. So now you understand what just happened. So this just proves to us that that is the source of the error. So we need to hash once, not twice. We have to send this in plain text to the function, and the function does the decryption or the encryption before it compares. We don't encrypt the encrypted. Okay? So that was the error we were encountering. So now we've done that, it means that we have to delete this user or reset the password, which is supposed to be the thing, but we don't have a password reset functionality. We'll delete, recreate, so that the hash will be correct, or we can just come here to put what the correct hash is supposed to be, which is not supposed to be the method you're supposed to use. So the best thing is for us to delete to see that this is working correctly. Okay, so we'll come back here and we'll create that account back. So now the account has been created, and we want to make sure our password hash matches. I'll use the same password so that when we activate now, we are going to get the same thing that we got in the error. So activation successful, and we'll come back here, and then we have that the same, having the last digit that the error had previously. So now we are getting the correct hash, but if we look at it here, we were not, this was what we were getting that made it wrong the previous time. I'll scroll back up for us to see that. And that was what we were getting to tell us we were wrong the previous time when we first tried to log in. This one we highlighted. And so that is what we're supposed to actually store in the database table. So we've corrected that error, so we can move forward. And so when I try with the wrong password, it should be failed, right? So there's the wrong password and failed. So it's working as is expected. Does everybody understand what we just did? Is there?
For me, I understand it, but I would like to go through it.
Okay. So I'll make the video available as soon as possible. If not tonight, tomorrow morning. So we fixed this error, and now we want to consider what we will do when login is successful. You don't want to see login successful. You want to be redirected to a page. And what we did here initially. Okay, so now I'm not going to use any pre-planned method. We're going to think as a new developer would think, and we're going to run with things without having any plan or any experience. I can begin to think about this as a finished product, and you'll see that everything works perfectly and app is built, but it will not teach you what you need to know. The major problem with development comes with the way you are going to think about what you are going to think about and the errors you are going to have. And so we'll focus on trying to think about things like new developers and just work that way. And then in the final lesson tomorrow, we walk back through everything, conclude our AWS settings, and we have an app running. So we had a source directory. Now we had the administrator, the client, and the clinical. We've not done anything with this. We said we wanted to have role-based authentication, where if a user logs in successfully, you want to check the role assigned and redirects the user to the home page of the assigned role, which means that all of this needs to have files in them, which means that we need to have templates for these different roles, which also means that we need to create new functions and new routes to deal with the situations that we want to create. We want to create, let's use an init file. I'm going to do something lazy. We'll come into this and we'll create init file so that once they say administrator, it just runs everything here. We'll do the same thing for all of these. And we know what init files do, right? Any code here is run automatically without you having to call that file. It's an initialization file. It runs all the scripts in this file once you come to the administrator directory. And we'll do for the clinical too. We'll open a new file in it. So we have these files. We want to, in the templates, create new directories. Let's say this is an admin directory. This is going to be a clients directory, and this is going to be a clinical directory. And then within this, we want to create file, and let's say base.html, and let's say we have home.html. Okay, we'll do the same thing for all of this. So we're just trying to create a directory, and when a user is logged in successfully, we want that user to be redirected to the home page of the assigned role. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create our structure. We might change this as we go along, but I want to think the way most of you would think for the first time. I want you to be able to understand that you don't have to have it all figured out when you start developing. You walk and think as you go, and then you always have to retrace your step back. And even when you look at what we've done so far, especially when we come to the functions, there are things that we've been doing repetitively, like all of this. That can be a function on its own that we can call. So things like that. Once you get to a professional level, you come back to your code 1 month later, you see that you can review this code and even make it more optimized. And so what we are doing now might not look as professional, but this is the way you will learn better. Think like you, and then we'll get better. So we'll create another file here. We'll just do exactly the same thing we did here. We'll have a home.html, and then we're going to have a base file. So I'll say base.html. Then I'll do it for the clinical also again. So I'll have base.html, and then I will have home.html. Okay, so we just try to have all of this just for us to see what to play with. We want to put something in the base file and the home page, even if we don't get to that today. We want to have like just a template code where we can use to illustrate where we redirect to when we log in successfully. For now, we'll just copy and paste. Since this is just not a front end, I will come to the base file in the root here. Let's just copy it for the base of the others. So let's work with the admin base. I'll paste this here, and then we can change things like this should be like administration. Let us write administration so that we know where we are when we log in successfully. And then we have the home page, which is going to be this is going to be the current page. It doesn't move anywhere. And then we want to have a logout. We're going to have other links, and this logout now. What we want to use that makes more sense is to use URL for, so that we just call the name of the function and not the route itself. So we don't have to start saying we are going to be looking for a particular route or deal with file referencing. So for this, we can use URL for like this, and then specify the name of the function. I think when we use URL for, we use the function name, but let's not even bother about that today. We'll do that tomorrow. Let's just leave this. We'll just create all the routes and then come back here and deal with the referencing so we don't get confused. Okay, so we'll just copy the same thing and use that for all the bases for the different places. So I'm not going to go in details with all of this because these are front end and we just want to see what we are doing. Front end is not the focus here. So we'll do client. So for those of you who want to be full stack developers, you might want to go deeper in all of this. Okay, and then we want to do that for clinical, and we'll change this to clinical. So we'll come back and we'll redo this later, or I'll do it privately, and on our class tomorrow we'll speed up. Now we want to do the home page also, so maybe we'll just copy what is on the index here and we'll just edit it to do something that we can display. So we want to extend base here, and then we don't want a form. Let's say we just want to say admin portal, something like that. We'll do the same thing here for this page or this home page. Say client portal, and then we'll do the same thing here. Okay, so we just created all of this. We're going to work around them soon. So we have the pages we want to go to in the templates. We have initialization files here that we'll use to maybe write our routes that are specific to this place in tomorrow's lesson. Let's go back to our utils and our app. We want to see what it is that we want to do next. The user login function here just returns true when the row count is greater than 0. We don't want to return true anymore. We want to check if that user has activated the account. If it's not activated, we want to redirect them to activate the account. Okay, this is going to use integers. When we come here, we want to look at this. The ID index is 0, right? We have the ID column, the index is 0. We have the email column, the index is 1. The password column, the index is 2. We have the row, the index is 3. And we have the code, the index is 4. We have activated, it is equal to 5. And then we created that. We can change all of this to return not indexes, but let's do it like this. Okay, so we have those different indexes there. Why do we need them? We need to be able to check if the account is activated and the index is 5. So we want to say if the value of activated. So we're going to remove this return true. We're going to do something else. We'll say for row in result, right? We want to say if the account is activated, and that is row 5. So if row, the index number is 5, right? If row 5 is equal to 1, we want to do something. Now we want to return true, right? And then if not, we want to return. We can use else or just return. Let's say else. We want to return account is not activated. Okay, or any fancy message you want to put there. So let's just return account is not activated. And then if the row count is not greater than 0, which means that the email and the password doesn't match, you want to return false, which means give them an error message. When this is done, we need to start a session if everything works out. We want to do this on the template or the route. But when we get there, we will want to check the role of the user before we redirect the user to the appropriate page. So what we will do now, we can work backward and say, since we know we want to get the role and this does not pass the role to that place, we can create another function. So this is what functional programming is all about. You create functions to handle almost everything. It makes it easy. So let's say function get role, and we want to pass the engine and the email. Then we want to encrypt the email before we send it. So let me accept this and then we'll go to, so we'll encrypt the email before we send it. We'll check if we'll select where the email is, that email, and then the row is index number 3. Okay, so we'll say for row in result, return the row of the user. So we're returning the row, and then if it's not found or if any of this does not work out, we just return false. Okay, so for row in, that return result 3. Or we want to say if result, let's put the condition, because this is how you think. If row count is greater than 0, then we'll now do that. Okay, so we have a get row that we'll use to find what the role of the user is, and then we have the user login edited to check if the account is activated, and then if it's not, do something. Now if it finds the person, check if the account is activated. You can do this in several ways, but let's do this in another way that looks like we are trying to think through our way while we're working. We have checked if the email and password are entered. We have created a response, login successful, and then we want to render a template to say this. Else we want to render a template to say invert login field or whatever. See, I'm just going to delete everything from here down, and the reason I'll do that, after the login, I'll delete everything down, and we're doing something else. We don't want to render templates or anything. We want to check for different things. Now we have something we call sessions and cookies. We're not going to look into cookies. Let's look at sessions. Session will allow us to get information specific to a user from one request to the next. That's just the short definition of session. So by the time you are logged in, you can move from one page to the next and the session keeps going. You know it's the same user clicking different pages. In Flask, we have a module called, on the Flask module, we have a function that we can import called session. So say from Flask, import. Instead of us to do this here, we can just import it here, session. Okay, and so we want to start a session. Okay, so the first thing we'll do here now is to say we want to give the session an ID, and let's make the session ID to be equal to the hash email of the user or the email of the user. Okay, so let's start. I'm trying to think through what I'm doing now. Let's have we'll use the index, we'll use the the session variable, we are going to start creating different it's like key value pairs. The session email will be equal to email, but we want the ID to be the email, so we're going to do it like this, or we can use it as email and use the email as the ID of the session, whatever we want to do. So we can now say we want to do let's do session email equal to email. So we did dictionaries, and we know how we store or create new items. So that's what we are doing. In that session, we want to create all of these add all these new items. That's key value pairs. This is the email and it's assigned. So that's the easiest way to think about this. This is the way we track the activity across pages. Okay, does everybody understand the reasoning behind this? Do you all understand?
Watch the recording again.
Okay, so we are looking at starting a session. That's the next thing. When the user is successfully logged in, what do we want to do? We send this for the user to be logged in. Let's do the else statement for this. So the user is not successfully logged in. We'll just write login, not unsuccessful login, something like that. Okay, and now we'll do the session equals to email. The next thing we want to think about is how do we get the role of the user? If the user's role is admin, we want to set the session role to be admin, so we can pass all of this to the template. So let's say if get role, that's the function we created here that we anticipated we're going to need. We want to get the role, so which means that here we have to add that. So if get role and the role assigned is admin, we want to set the session role to be admin. We'll do the if statement for the client and the clinical. So let's do it again. If get role is equal to client, and put that as client, and if get role is equal to clinical, we will set this as clinical. So we have two keys for the session, the email and the role. We'll use the email as the ID. Okay. If all of this, if the login is not successful, just say unsuccessful login and render the template. That's what we want to do there. Now, when we set this session as admin, what do we do next? We want to redirect the person to the home page of the assigned role. That's the next thing we want to do, right? So we'll now say return, redirect, render template, admin.html. We're going to be rendering template admin. So it's going to be admin / that's how we did it here in the templates folder, admin / home.html, and what we want to send to this is the email, the session. Let's just try this. I doubt this will work, but we'll try it. We'll do that for there, client home, and then we want to send the user here to start the session. Okay, and if all of this is not correct, we want to do that. We talked about a logout. Let's try to create a logout route. We'll just do all of this today, have something to think about, and then tomorrow we will tomorrow we're going to finalize this when we retrace our step or retrace our thought process. right? So we want to get the logout. Let's create a logout route. So we'll just say what we'll even do with logout is just to pop the sessions I've created, the email and the row. So now that we're here, we'll just do that like that. Session.pop row. So when we do this, render template, we have now been logged out. Let's just put the same response.html template, and we will put a message, logged out successfully. So that's just how the logout is. Now let's run this, and if all of this, if the method is post, if the method is get, we want to do something. It's for the login. So let's come here. We handled the post, but we didn't handle the get. So this is for the login. So we are now done thinking on the fly. So let us try and then try to retrace our step and see if everything that we're trying to do makes sense. We're on the right track. Okay, so let me clear here and I'll run this file again. So we are there. Let's look at the role assigned to this user. It's the admin role. So we want to see a page that says admin home. And if it's not successful, we'll now be able to review our code and think through it properly to get to where we want to get to. And it still stays on the login page. It did not go forward. It did not give us the, it's still on the login route. It did not tell us successful or failed. It stayed there. And we don't know why it is there. What it's saying here is that everything is 200 successful. So why are we there? This rollback, it did not commit. Are we supposed to commit anything? That's the next thing we're going to think of. Are we supposed to commit any transaction here that we did not? Are we supposed to see another error? All we got here is a 200, which means okay, everything was okay, but we were not redirected. We were sent back to the login page. So let's look at this. When we executed this, everything is not committed. We don't have a commit message here. We just have a rollback at the end of it all. Let's do con.execute this. Let's say commit. I don't think this is even right, but let's try that again. So we are going to retrace this, and I'm going to try a couple of things for you to see. Even though it's committed, we still have the same thing. So this was never the problem. The problem we're having now is going to be on our route here, on how we define things. We have said that if the request method is post, we want to check if the we want to run the login, the user login function, and this function is going to check whatever it needs to check. If it's correct, the user is logging, we return true here. And I don't think this is what we're supposed to return here. Maybe we should do all of this on that file and return the session. And then if return true, we get the session email is equal to email, and we do that for the role. We want to get the role of the user, create the session role, and then we pass this, and we want this to render a template called this, pass the email and the session. but it doesn't render the template. What it does is to return us back the login file. Okay? And it's returning us assuming the method is post, but our method is not post. And so we need to know why we're redirected here. So I will try to get the videos available for you to get to this point, but that one of two things we are going to do tomorrow. And if you can try it out before the class, we'll most likely have the class at this time since it's the last class for the course. One of the things I want you to try is to play around with what we have done and see if you have a different way of thinking about it or getting a different kind of result. And then when we come in tomorrow, we're going to redirect to where we want it to be and see the other functionalities of this app and push that live for us to see how it works. Okay, there are other things we need to do also for production code, and these are testing, unit tests, applying unit tests to this. We also want to do the type hinting that we learned in part 2 of this course, where you have to put the expected type of this, what are the types of this, and what is the return type of the different functions. Those are things you need to do to your production code based on all the things we've been coming to this part. Okay, anybody with question? All right, in the absence of question, you will get the video as soon as it's possible, and we will send an announcement in the group chat on what time the class tomorrow will be. If you need extra assistance, you can book a one-on-one before the due date of your final project. All right, so have a nice time everyone, and see you all tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.